Today on IIN, we will dive into the first episode of our new documentary series Micropolis, visiting the smaller settlements of the empire. We will look at hamlets, villages and towns all over the settled planets, from the core world to Khaillim Prime, our most remote colony. For this documentary, our crew visited over 20 different settlements, sometimes consisting only of a few farming houses on a newly settled planet, sometimes a thousands of years old center of trade. We will visit pressurized domes, coastal towns, snowy villages and mining settlements. We will get to see newly established colonies with modern technology and architecture, as well as old bastion cities, remnants of the war for unity. And we will even dive down to the mighty submerged domes of underwater settlements. And where could we more fittingly begin our series than in Khaillim, one of the oldest continuously inhabited areas of the core worlds? Khaillim is located on the shores of the Likkoran province, making it the climatically most pleasant zone we will visit in our series. Today, approximately 80,000 subjects live and work here, most of them from the noble house Likkoran. Khaillim serves as the regional capital of the Connaught district. Archaeologists have dated the first traces of settlement in Khaillim to the year 4200 before the Unity. By the way, Khaillim translates to rocky river mouth in Old Khel, the language still spoken on the islands of Likkoran today. The city has a port that is still regularly visited by passenger ferries and trawlers today. The small market on the waterfront provides a welcome alternative to shopping at the Emporium. It is opened at most days. The port of Khaillim is first mentioned in records 1200 years before the Unity, when Principe Bijana Likkoran granted the city its own customs rights.
We take the historical monorail to go from the harbor district to the butcher district. Of course, animals haven't been slaughtered here for almost 500 years, but the name has persisted. Some of the houses here and their expansive gardens also indicate that in Khaillim many sand chickens and especially stone crabs were kept to meet the province's needs. The monorail is even older than the butcher district. The ring-shaped structure was built less than 100 years after the Unity and has 10 stops served by a modern train. Appropriately, the monorail, whose old steel structure is maintained by its own in-house enterprise, stops right next to the Khaillim City Museum. The museum is housed in the old city command headquarters from the time of the Republican occupation. It is only fitting, then, that we visit the exhibition space showcasing artifacts and images from the time of the Unity War. Like the rest of the Likkoran province, Khaillim was relatively unaffected by the occupation. Likkoran healers and pharmacists, although the house later chose to align with House Fayal against the Republic during the Unity War, did not differentiate in the treatment of royalists and republicans. This led to the house being granted many freedoms during the occupation. Khaillim is known in Likkoran for its old manufacturing streets, many of which are still preserved today. In this manufacturing street, medicinal plants were once grown, distilled, and processed. Most Akinins still cultivate herbs and plants in their gardens, even though the farms, mills, and workshops have mostly become residences. Typically, manufacturing streets were operated by an extended family, maintaining a complex supply chain within 6 or 7 buildings for the respective noble house. It's hard to believe, but in this small street, there often lived over 100 Akinin. 6 well-preserved manufacturing streets can still be found in Khaillim today, with most of them originally dedicated to the production of medicine. The oldest street, whose houses date back to the 5th century before the Unity, was originally inhabited by a large family from House Arundel originating from the east. Here, agricultural tools and spare parts for mills were manufactured. The manufacturing streets of the Old Quarter lead us to the craft streets, where craftspeople, most often of immune rank, offered their services in the past and continue to do so today.
Most subjects either walk or use hover buses or the monorail when they want to reach their destination in Khaillim. As in most provinces, individual traffic in Likaran is usually reserved for dignitaries and high nobles. Along the old statues depicting notable principi of House Likaran, we head directly to the central square of the beacon. Here, you'll find the prefect's seat, the hall of houses, and some shops. The Pillar of Light in Khaillim gained infamous recognition in the year 40 before the Unity, when, in Ithreb, the 15 remaining houses declared Principa Mianira the first princess during the War for Unity. The city commander, a staunch atheist, ordered the destruction of the Pillar of Light to set an example. Dozens of subjects attempted to prevent the destruction and were shot by the Republic's troops. The pillar still was destroyed and could only be rebuilt several years after the Unity. Hence, the oldest city in the province possesses the youngest pillar. To conclude our visit, we head outside the city gates. The famous Sanatorium of Khaillim is located about 2 kilometers away. It can be reached by hoverbus and has been in continuous operation for almost 1,000 years. Originally established for the treatment of war veterans, the sanatorium now specializes in medical rehabilitation and gene therapies for chronic diseases. Up to 2,000 patients are admitted here each year, and its inviting gardens are well known throughout the province. By the way, the usual way back into the city is along the small avenue, typically covered on foot, to prove that one is healed. And so, we head back to catch our ferry, which will take us back to the mainland to Mycos, right in the heart of the Gautus Mountains. Because in the next episode of Micropolis, we will be visiting the founding city of House Mizwell.